share my screen. Okay. So, stress, health, and coping. How appropriate, right? Towards the end of the semester. And we all have different ways. So, as we go through this, CCAC actually offers a 1 credit stress management class, which I've taught many, many, many times. So you're kind of getting an overview of the stress management class as part of this also, because people forget what causes stress. They automatically think, oh, it's, something at work, something at school, a little pressure here. But stress can be caused by a lot of different things. And stress can really affect your body and can really affect your health. So we're going to go through a couple different coping strategies. Um, we're going to talk a little bit about sleep and sleep deprivation. We're going to just talk a little bit about dreams because we have someone who did their presentation and paper on dreams. So I don't want to step on any toes on that one. So I'm just going to stick pretty much to the information you need to know for the test because they're going to go into a heck of a lot more. Just another comment on the test in general. Most people did better this test than they did the test before in general. So I was happy. We did have a couple people over 100%. So congratulations. For the people that didn't, again, you should get an A on your paper. You should get an A for class participation. So if you did poorly on 1 or 2 tests, you're still in good shape. You just have to make sure you do okay on the final exam. And the final exam is probably the shortest exam. It's only like 37 questions. And it's multiple choice. And the extra credit is to tell me about somebody else's presentation. So somewhere over the next 3 weeks, you have to pay attention to at least one other person's presentation that you'll be able to give me a little summary in about a paragraph and a half of what you learned from their presentation. And if you did ADHD, you can't talk about someone else who did ADHD. That would be kind of trying to trick the teacher. But remember, I have a copy of all your topics. So let's get started. So when we talk about stress, it's a general term. Okay, it's reflecting on, our body and how we psychologically respond to things in the world that are going to alter our body. And if you remember, our body likes to be in that state of equilibrium. If you go way back to the second lecture, it likes kind of like what we call homeostasis. So when we get out of that homeostasis, we call that a stressor. Something causes this to happen. And there are 2 types of stressors. There are acute stressors and chronic stressors. Acute stressors are short-lived. That means just a short period of time. So you're in a car accident and you have that little fender bender. And of course, that's going to cause stress. But as you get out of the car and see nobody's hurt and see that it's only just a little scratches, your car still runs, everything's okay. Once you get your car fixed, you got home safe, the stress is gone. That's an acute stressor. It's very short-lived. A chronic stressor would be something that's going to be with you a long time. This pandemic has been a chronic stressor. We thought it was only going to be a couple weeks. Well, we're over a year and we're still dealing with it. There are still people not working. It seems to be getting better. We have a vaccine that hopefully is going to help and work, but we're still under stress. And some people in a lot of stress, I mean, the amount of anxiety disorder issues that are going on right now, depression, it's amazing. I never thought I would see anything like this in my lifetime as a psychologist. Um, and it's not something any of us can change. It's something that is going to take its time. So we would call that a chronic stressor. Or if you find out you have cancer, even if you get radiation and chemo and they think they got it all, there's still the possibility you could get cancer again. It could come back, even if it went into remission. So acute stressors, short lived, chronic stressors, much longer. How we deal with the stress is called the stress response. And again, we're going to go back to lecture 2. When you already learned the stress response. Now, right in front of you is a big bear, right? And the easiest way I can describe this, since we weren't in a classroom that I could just throw this at you and shock you, I had to put it in the PowerPoint, is if you were walking through the woods, just hiking, it's a beautiful day, and you turn the corner and that's the face you see. After you get done soiling your clothing, you would have to make a decision. Do you fight or flight? Do you remember that from way back when, a couple weeks ago? Fight or flight? Do you stay and deal with the bear? Like, do you yell and scream and hope to scare it away? Or do you try to get the heck out of there and hope you can outrun the bear and hope he's not too hungry? But you have to make a decision. And in that second that your brain saw that face, it automatically puts you into stress mode. So you have that general alarm system we call fight or flight. That's the stress response. And in the alarm phase, it's very straightforward. It's like instantaneous. Then after the stress has been around a while, you kind of adapt. Now, some of that adaptation could be your choice, and some of it just will happen naturally. If you're in an area, say, that has a lot of what we call noise pollution, it's loud, eventually your brain kind of gets used to it, and it doesn't even affect you the way it used to affect you. But that takes a while to happen. But your body can adapt. Or another example would be in the winter, when it first goes from fall to winter, that first time when it gets cold, it's like 20 degrees and we're like, oh my gosh, it's so cold. And our body hasn't adapted yet to 20 degrees. But after the whole winter where it's been 10 and 0 and below 0, the first time we hit 40 in Pittsburgh, people were in their shorts and their flip-flops, and it feels like summer. But that's because our body adapted to the temperature. Remember, even things like that, change of temperature can cause stress on the body. Seasonal affective disorder is a topic, and I think somebody did seasonal affective disorder in here. We actually can become depressed because we don't see a lot of sunlight here in Pittsburgh in the winter, or if it's very, very cold. And because of that, some people need light therapy. And you actually can get this light box that has special bulbs in it that give us the same thing we would have if we were sitting in the sun for say 30 minutes. And that can elevate people's mood just because of that. So then we have the exhaustion phase. Sorry, I had to try to get that person in and that didn't quite work. So let me do that again. Thank you, sorry. So the exhaustion phase is kind of burnout. We don't want to get to the exhaustion phase. That is a bad thing because in the exhaustion phase, you've already gone too low, too far, and maybe too fast. The goal is to try to learn some of these management techniques that we're going to talk about tonight to prevent you from going to the exhaustion phase. It's okay if you're in the resistance phase. I mean, you're still being stressed, but your body is managing it. It's when you get to the exhaustion phase that it's just tremendously bad for your body. Now, the first thing is when you think you're under stress, excuse me, we call that primary appraisal. So when you first look at a situation and you think it's going to cause you stress, so you got a new job, it means a whole bunch more work. So you know, okay, it's going to cause stress. But you think you can handle it because you know it's coming, right? So we can prepare. Secondary appraisal, on the other hand, is a little bit different. Secondary appraisal means we find out something is stressful after the fact. Sorry, allergies. So you got this job, you think everything's okay. You're excited because you're getting paid more money. And you like the job. Except 5 weeks down the road, you find out you now have to travel that you didn't have to travel before, and you have small children. So now you're going to have to find a babysitter for nights that you'll have to stay overnight somewhere. And that causes more stress. Stress that you weren't counting on, but it's now there. That's what we call secondary appraisal. It happens after the matter of fact. You didn't realize it at first. You knew there was some stress, but you weren't expecting this. It almost kind of like broadsides you and can actually be worse than the primary appraisal. The goal is to find ways to cope. How do you cope with stress? Now, everyone here has a different coping mechanism. You know, maybe you're a stress eater. I always say I'm a stress eater. When I'm stressed out, give me something sweet. Doesn't have to be cake or pie, or I mean, it could just be a Jolly Rancher, but something sweet. Some people cope by doing exercise. They go out, they go to the gym, and they work out, and they try to burn off that stress. Some people yell. Scream therapy. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but there are groups that actually meet around the country once a month, and they get together and they get in a room and they close the door and they basically scream for 5 minutes. Not kidding. This is a real thing because it lets out all that aggression, and then they talk about it, and then they go home and go back another month later and do the exact same thing. Some people, may read. Some people may put on a movie. I always like to, when people say, "Yeah, I'll go home and I'll watch a movie and everything." I'm like, okay, well that's good, but if you're stressed out, go home and watch a good fun movie. Don't go home and watch Titanic. People die. You don't want to do that if you're already under stress. Don't watch a horror movie if you hate horror movies because it's going to cause more stress. Go home and watch maybe a comedy, or if you like love stories, watch a love story. If love stories cause you stress, then don't watch a love story. you know but we all have different means of coping. Now, there are positive ways of coping and there are negative ways of coping. So if you have to run home, and I'm going to use the term need a drink instead of want to drink, need a drink, then that can be a problem for a coping strategy. It's different if you say you want to go home and have a drink with your friends, but if you say you have to need a drink to get through whatever's going on, that's bad. That's a bad coping strategy. And the more you feel like you are in control, perceived control, the better you are to handle stress. So, getting past what we call learned helplessness, and we'll talk about learned helplessness when we do the section on emotions and motivation. But learned helplessness is when you're in a situation and you feel like you have no control at all. Let me give you an example. If you go to a doctor and you find out that you have cancer, and your doctor says to you, you have 4-stage cancer. 4-stage lung cancer, there's nothing you can do. And you're like, wait, well, I want to get another opinion. Please do. You go to another doctor, they say the exact same thing. There's nothing you can do. You have no control over that cancer. None. They gave you no options to help you cope with that. Versus if you go to the doctor and the doctor says to you, you have 4-stage lung cancer, there's a special new group that's starting. It's a new research study that they're doing. I can get you in it. It starts this week. Now, I can't guarantee anything, but it looks promising, that can help you live longer. You have some control. Even though it may be a small amount, you still have some control. So you can get beyond that learned helplessness. And the more you can predict stress, the better you can control stress. So like today, you knew your paper was due. You knew you would be presenting today or next week or the week after that. It's predictable. And if you don't like to present, then hey, you know it's coming, prepare for it. If anybody, and hopefully nobody did, but I usually get a few that do, hopefully nobody waited until this morning to start writing their paper, because then you're just adding more stress to your life. You've known for 11 weeks that this paper was due today. But I'm sure there were some people that were doing it over the weekend, or maybe even doing it today, or secretly there might be some people still doing it right now. I've seen it all in all my years. But you can control that stress if you know it's going to cause you stress. If you're going to a family dinner and somebody in your family is going to be there that you don't get along with, it's coming, right? It's going to happen. So you can predict, okay, how am I going to control myself? Or maybe I shouldn't even go. So what are sources of stress? Internal conflict. You do something that's against your beliefs. Okay. Just daily life hassles can be a cause of stress. Traffic, the weather, Don't you love that? The weather, it's the only profession you can be wrong every day and still have a job. The weather person says no rain, and so you're like, okay, I'm gonna wash my car and wear my new outfit, and at noon you got to start the soaking rain. It's like, I wouldn't wash my car, I wouldn't worn this if I would have known. So just life's hassles. Interruptions. Interruptions are a big thing. If you were trying to type this paper and your family kept interrupting you, you're like, oh, I have to get this done. Interruptions can be really, really frustrating and can cause people a lot of stress. And when we talk about how stress affects the body, cancer, suppresses the immune system. Okay. Stress suppresses the immune system. You don't want to do that. You want to give yourself some control. So, as I said in that example, if you believe you have some control over the cancer, then you have a chance. You can fight off some of that stress. Is it easy? No, but it can help. It can help your family because they're under stress, and also you who may have the cancer, it can help you also. Same with heart disease. You want to control your stress because heart disease, you have stress, it raises your blood pressure. You definitely don't need high blood pressure if you already have heart problems. You could end up having a stroke on top of heart problems. If anybody's ever had chest pains, some pains are actually caused by stress. It's called angina. And it's not really a heart attack, but it's giving you a hint. Hey, if you don't control your stress, you could end up having a heart attack. There's a high connection between heart disease and depression. Depression can cause stress on a person. So it's almost like a vicious circle. The goal is just control your stress, and your rest of your body will kind of follow along. That doesn't mean you won't ever get sick. It doesn't mean that you'll never have cancer or heart disease or depression or anxiety, but you give yourself a fighting chance if you can control your stress. Any questions so far?
I just have to ask that, like, you keep saying control our stress, but I feel like I need to learn how to control my coping mechanisms, if anything, because I don't feel like I truly can control. I understand what you're saying, but I think some things in life are unpredictable. And like, my best bet is just to keep fluid with my coping skills, because depending on what the stress is, I feel like depends on what coping mechanism I use. But I don't know that I feel like I can really control stress.
Yeah, you can. If you're falling back on coping mechanisms, then you are controlling stress. Imagine what it would be like if you didn't do anything.
Okay.
Okay.
And I can understand that.
And we're gonna go over some of the different techniques that are used. But yeah, if you're already using coping strategies, you're already controlling your stress, because the level of stress you would be under if you did nothing will be far worse and a lot more damage. The thing is, some people never recognize that they're even under stress. They've adapted so well, they forget that their body's still in stress mode. And even though you may be managing your stress, damage still may take place. If you remember when we talked about cortisol, that cortisol, when you're under stress, is still being released. Even if you don't feel under stress, you think you've managed it by using different coping strategies, you've reduced it, but it's still there. So it's not necessarily completely gone, but it's just controlled. And as long as you can keep it controlled, you have a fighting chance that it's not going to cause any major problems. It's when we lose that ability to cope. And some people, especially young children, have very few coping strategies. And that's why stress can cause so much more problems with young children than it can adults. Adults have had just more life experience that they're able to deal with it. But thank you for sharing. But like I said, give yourself a pat on the back, because if you already have coping strategies that you recognize you need and you use them, you're already ahead of the game. Okay, sleep. And you may go, okay, why is she talking about sleep when we're doing stress? Because sleep deprivation is a stressor, and it can be a chronic stressor if you're not careful. Sleep deprivation can actually be a torture. At 36 hours of not sleeping, you can actually begin to hallucinate. So sleep is important. Now, before we go through all the stages and I talk about how much sleep you need, I want you just to jot down somewhere, so you can't change your answer. Just jot it down somewhere. How many hours of sleep on average you get a day? Is it 9, 8, 7.5, 7, 6, 3? I mean, be honest with yourself, because you don't have to share it with anyone, but everyone have that written down? Okay, so let's look at the stages of sleep. So that first stage is kind of similar to the feeling you would get it if you were being hypnotized. It's a stage where you can awake very easily. So any little noise, or something move, like a pet moving or your spouse moving, in the bed, or you hear something outside, maybe the wind, you can wake up very easily from this stage. It's kind of like this hypnosis. You're relaxed, but not really into deep sleep yet. At stage 2, we kind of move into a deeper sleep, the sleep spindles. And by stage 3 and 4, we are into heavy duty delta waves, and we begin REM sleep. REM sleep is rapid eye movement, and we all have it, and it's when we dream. Whether we remember our dreams or not, that depends on the individual person. And like I said, we have someone doing dreams, so I'm not going to say a lot about dreams. But you can dream in color, you can dream in black and white. And, if you want to remember your dreams, your best chance of remembering a dream is the one you have right before you wake up. But some people can remember all of their dreams. And there's ways, they call it lucid dreaming, that they can uh, go back into their dreams to continue a dream. Like if you ever wanted to know the ending of a dream, it didn't happen. So that may come up in the presentation. So I don't want to talk anymore about that one. But REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, this is when our brain is the most active out of the whole day. This is the time when, consolidating ideas from the day, making those new memories stick. So it's really important. And it's REM sleep based on what those letters stand for. If you were watching someone sleep underneath their eyelids, you will see their eyeballs going back and forth. And not only humans, dogs, cats, also have REM sleep. And you can watch this happening. So that's how you know they're in REM sleep. It's really freaky if you know someone. There are some people that actually sleep with their eyes open, and you will see their eyes go back and forth. That's kind of really freaky. I had a friend who uh, did that, and it was a little unnerving actually, because you thought they were awake, but really they were actually asleep. Now, you wrote down how much sleep you get. So here's a sleep scale. So we have awake, and then we start to get into the deeper stages of sleep. Now, this first stage, before we get to the second stage, you're talking about a half hour. So if you're going to take a nap and you don't want it to affect you in any way other than you just relaxing, that would be just the um, that first half hour. You would want to get up after a half hour. Otherwise, when you start going into the deeper stages of sleep, uh, there's kind of a rebound effect there. Let's say you sleep for an hour. When you wake up, you tend to be more groggy, more grumpy, feel more tired than you did if you laid down. And that's because you wake up and you're already in the deeper stages of sleep, those delta waves. So, my suggestion is if you are going to take a nap, less than a half hour, and that will just relax your body. It's not going to do any healing of your body. It's not going to do any consolidating of ideas or thoughts. It's just going to relax your body. And sometimes that's all we need, just a little bit of relaxation. Or you want to sleep for about 2.5 hours, 3 hours would be best. You want to get in one little REM cycle. It's small, but by getting in that little REM cycle, that rapid eye movement, that's going to help regenerate you and help heal your body. And if you look here, most people will have 4 REM cycles if they sleep for 7 hours. Now, if you sleep for 8 or 9, you're going to have another REM cycle. But if you said, say you sleep 6 hours, you only get 3 REM cycles. You miss out on the longest one. Or let's say you only sleep 4 hours. Well, now you only have 2 REM cycles. So it's important that you get sleep. Everyone's a little different. You actually need less sleep as you get older. When you're younger, you need more sleep. And in the educational psychology field, it's always been interesting that school districts have their high school students getting up to start school at like 7:30, which means the high school kids have to get up earlier, and the younger students starting at 9, and they do that because of busing. They do stages of busing. But in reality, it's the high school kids that need approximately 9 hours of sleep. There aren't too many high school kids that are getting 9 hours of sleep. And the younger children, because they go to bed early, they get more than enough sleep. And if they could reverse that, they would probably be helping the health of our high school students. But the issue is all the other activities that high school students want to do, like play sports or get a job, or they want to spend time with their boyfriend or their girlfriend. And because of that, they're not getting enough sleep. So that's why you see high school and college students, because remember, you're still in that category until you're 25 when your brain finishes developing the frontal lobe. You're putting your body in stress if you're not getting that much sleep. Now, let's say you go a couple days and you haven't had enough sleep and you have the opportunity to sleep a lot. You might go through what we call REM rebound. In REM rebound, excuse me, you may sleep 12, 14 hours, but you have really, really strange, disturbing dreams. I mean, like nightmares. And that's just how your body works. Your body's trying to get caught up, doesn't get caught up. So you want to get to sleep when you can. What does sleep deprivation do? Your attention, especially sustained attention. Like right now, if you didn't get a lot of sleep last night, this is really hard for you to listen to this lecture because you have to stay in attention. Doesn't help that I'm coughing either. Motor task, lacking. Your mood suffers. Increase of cortisol, and we know the dangers of cortisol and how it can decrease our immune system. And it can decrease our learning. And then dreaming. And again, for the person who's doing dreams, hang in there. I'm not going to say too much. What triggers particular dreams? Many times it's something we're thinking about or something we saw or something we heard. Freud has, his suggestions, and remember Freud last week. So like some sort of wish we have, some sort of manifest content, like you're dreaming about the job you just got. But in reality, Freud says also that it may be latent content, some desire that you have or some underlying theme. So if you're climbing up a mountain and everyone else is taking the road, but you're taking the side of the hill, and you get almost to the top and everyone else is making it all the way to the top, and you get almost to the top and you slide all the way back down. That isn't about you climbing a hill. That's you dreaming about you have some goal you're trying to reach and you seem like you're never going to get there. Okay. Some people say dreaming is, this activation synthesis and all the things that we've learned during the day. It activates our brain revs up our body through sleep. It improves our neuro connections. We may dream about goals. And yes, sexual dreams and arousal are perfectly normal to have. That's not, something, you would need to be ashamed of. That happens naturally to everyone. And then sleep in general, some people have trouble sleeping. Some people have insomnia and they may need to take sleeping pills. Now, the basic over-the-counter sleeping pills aren't really that strong for someone who has a serious sleep disorder. But some things you can do to help yourself is like don't drink caffeine after 6 o'clock. Don't exercise after 8 o'clock. Don't eat after 8 o'clock. So depending on when you're going to bed, uh, if you're a shift person that your week of work switches, so first you're like 7 to 3, and then you're 3 to 11, and then 11 to 7, it's even harder to get yourself in that kind of rotation. So some people do rely on sleeping pills. um, you can buy over-the-counter melatonin. You can get it right at Giant Eagle or Shop and Save, Target, Walmart. It's really cheap. You can just take some extra melatonin. Melatonin is a natural substance in our body that helps us get tired throughout the day. And there's a big release for many people around 3 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So sometimes you kind of feel kind of a little tired around that time. And then there's another release, usually sometime after 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And that's part of your biorhythms. Everyone's is a little different, but that's typically, it's like late afternoon and then later in the evening. And that's our natural biorhythm to sleep, because we need sleep, our circadian rhythms, when we talk about it. And we think of, this 24-hour cycle. In reality, if we removed all light, no artificial light, you were put in some sort of dark chamber, if they actually looked at your circadian rhythms, they come out to be 24.9 hours. So it's an odd number. And that means that our body has adapted from that to a 24-hour day. So our body's constantly a little bit under stress because it's already making an adaptation that we didn't even know we had to make an adaptation for. So trouble for sleep. Now, there are a couple things that can cause problems. So you're going to want to know what these are. So the first one are night terrors and nightmares. I think everyone knows what a nightmare is. You may have had one. We typically see them in children, but adults can have nightmares also. It's when, for some reason, you have a dream that causes you to wake up and you're either terrified, or you may be screaming, or you're really upset or startled. But the thing with a nightmare is you remember what you dreamt. So if a little kid wakes up and they're screaming, and you as the parent go, "What's wrong?" And they say, "I think there's something under my bed." You turn on the light, you look underneath the bed, you say, "You can see there's nothing there. Here, let me give you a little drink of water. And you know what? We're going to put on this little night light, and I'm going to sit in here until you fall asleep." And they eventually fall back to sleep, and you go on with the rest of your night. Night terrors are different. Night terrors can be debilitating. You wake up screaming, but you don't remember your dream. Now you might say, "Well, what's the problem with that?" Well, if you keep waking up different times during the week screaming and you don't know why, people can develop a phobia to sleep. They're actually afraid to go to sleep because they're afraid they're going to have a night terrors. Night terrors can go on the rest of your lives. So it's not something you grow out of. So if you are having night terrors, you probably would want to get into some sort of therapy or counseling, because you are going to have sleep problems. Narcolepsy. Narcolepsy at one time was actually a disorder that you could get disability for, because narcolepsy means you can fall asleep at any time in any place. So, you get behind the wheel of a car, and you're just sitting at a red light and you fall asleep. Or you get on an escalator and you're going down the escalator, and there are people that can fall asleep between the top of the escalator and the bottom of the escalator. If you work with any type of heavy machinery, you can't, because you can cause injury to yourself or to others. So they have had some luck. I'm trying to remember, for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the drug, but it was a Parkinson's medication. So it wasn't even, specific to that, but the person who had narcolepsy also happened to have Parkinson's. And they found out by taking this drug, it actually controlled the narcolepsy. So they've been using this drug to try to help people that have this problem. This, that they can sleep literally anywhere. Insomnia, people have trouble sleeping. Again, if it's at the point that you're not getting enough sleep and the over-the-counter stuff doesn't work, then you may want to get a prescription. Probably the most common one is Ambien. It's very, very strong, and it does work, but it works very well. Like if you take Ambien, you need to make sure you can get a full 8 hours of sleep, because that medication stays in your body for 8 hours. So let's say you get up in 5 and you jump in your car to go to work. That Ambien is still working on your body, telling it to sleep. You could fall asleep driving to work, and of course cross the line or run into a tree. So if you are going to take it, you need to make sure you are going to get 8 hours of sleep. There's a black box warning. That means this has happened. People have died because of this. So there's a warning given to anyone who gets this prescription, so they know. It's really, really important. It's very powerful. It works very well, but you have to make sure you can get that much sleep. If you can't, then you shouldn't be taking it. And sleep apnea. Maybe you know someone who has sleep apnea. Sleep apnea means that you stop breathing during the night when you're sleeping. Some people have stopped breathing 400, 500 times during the night. And in order to make sure this person lives through the night, they can have surgery where they can widen the opening in the back of their throat. Like if they have tonsils and adenoids, they would remove those. Some people just have a smaller palate area, and they can possibly remove some back teeth if they have really, really big molars. But the most common thing that people do is the CPAP machine. And it's a breathing machine that forces air, so it forces you to constantly breathe. And you sound like you're sleeping with Darth Vader. It's like, it's very loud, and it's really hard for the person who's sleeping in the bed with you, because they have to adapt and adjust to that. They have other devices, some dental devices that can be used. So there are other alternative things. If it's not that bad, like you would have to have a sleep study. If you're getting like 8 hours of sleep and you're constantly exhausted, there's a possibility you might have sleep apnea. If you live with someone, you could just ask them to stay up and listen to you breathe, because you can hear it when somebody stops breathing. Like there's a long pause where there's no breath, and then all of a sudden it's like a but if you have a sleep study, you're on film. So they connect you to all these wires, and they basically watch you sleep for, it has to be at least 4 cycles, or excuse me, one REM cycle, at least 3 to 4 hours straight through, so they can analyze if it's like restless leg syndrome, or if you're having breathing problems, or how many times you stop breathing. But if it's just minimal, they may not even do a CPAP. They may say you need to lose weight, don't sleep on your back, don't sleep on your stomach, you should sleep on your side. They may have you buy a special pillow that can cradle your head a certain way so you're getting enough airflow into your body. So it depends on how severe it is. But yes, that could be something you have the rest of your life that you would have to use. Coping strategies. So when we talk about different coping strategies, we have what we call problem-focused strategies and emotion-focused strategies. Problem-focused strategies are very direct, and we have a tendency to see more males using this type of strategy. That doesn't mean women don't. It's just that's that correlation. We see a little higher correlation of men using problem focused strategies. And let's go through the strategies. Active coping. An example of active coping, you get a flat tire. What do? You fix the flat tire. That's it. That's active coping. You dealt with the stress, you fix the tire. Or planning. You knew you had a paper today. You planned it out like a month ago. Okay, this is the topic I'm going to do. This week, I'm going to do my research. Next week, I'm going to write my rough draft. This weekend, I'm going to put it all together and type it. And I'm going to send it to her on class night, right? Instrumental social support. Instrumental social support is someone actually helping you. So again, you have a flat tire. You don't know how to change a flat tire. You pick up the phone and call your Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob, I have a flat tire. Can you help me? Uncle Bob comes, changes the flat tire. These are problem-focused strategies. Emotion-focused strategies, again, have a correlation that more women tend to use these strategies, but there are plenty of men that use these strategies also. The first one, emotional social support. Let's go back to that flat tire. So you got a flat tire. You're waiting for AAA to come eventually, but they said it's going to be a while. So you call your friends on the phone and go, "Hey, I got a flat tire. Can you just talk to me?" "Sure. What's going on?" And you feel better because you're, talking to someone, but they're not really helping you change the tire. The active coping part comes when AAA comes and fixes your tire. But the reduction of stress that can occur because of the emotional support that you have from the person you're calling and talking to. And leading with that is the second greatest one is venting. Venting is really good for anybody, but women do this a lot. So for all the men on the Zoom call, let me give you some advice. This is some sound psychological advice. If you're ever in a relationship with any woman, if something's going on that causes stress and she wants to talk about it, that's venting. She just wants to talk about it. If she doesn't ask you for what she should do to fix it, she's not looking for an answer. She just wants to vent. I can't tell you how many couples get into fights because of this one little coping strategy.
I can
Because,
explain why.
well, yeah, I'm sure you could because you're a male. Go ahead.
If we could spend more time enjoying our time together, if you take our advice to fix it so you wouldn't have to tell us this.
Yeah, the problem is, though, the woman will still be stressed because the coping comes with the talking about it over and over and over again, which could be causing you, the male, stress by having to listen to it. But
Yeah, just do
sometimes,
what I advise you to do. It'll stop and you won't have to be upset.
yep,
Nope.
nope.
That's when you need to bring out the wine and chocolate.
Yeah, it takes sometimes you just need to say it over and over. And the more someone vents, the more they, even if it's the same story over and over to different people, and you may have heard, and it can be with a friend and you love them dearly, but you want to strangle them. But every time they tell the story, they vent the stress and it gets better. And as that stress decreases, they get to see the answer because they came up with the answer, not somebody telling them to do it. Now, if they ask you for help, of course, then you say, you know, why don't you try this? But if they don't ask, sometimes having someone constantly saying, well, you should do this causes even more stress. So now they don't even want to bring it up because they're afraid you're gonna, keep going on
Just
and on.
just let the girl talk.
Yep, that's it. Just let the girl talk. Ignore her if you have to, but just let the girl talk. Positive reinterpretation and growth. We've all done this one too. Looking at something with a silver lining, per se. So you got fired from your job or you got laid off. You got a pink slip, okay? You really didn't like that job, but you couldn't leave that job because you needed the money. So now you can get unemployment while you're looking for a job that you really want to do. So you look at it differently. Hey, this is my opportunity to get a better job. Behavioral disengagement. Have you ever heard count to 10 or walk away? That's behavioral disengagement. Get yourself out of the situation.
I hate that when somebody says count to 10. It's like now I got to count to 10, which makes more stress.
Well, you could just disengage by just walking away. But if you're if you're stuck in this situation, then the best thing sometimes is to just stop and almost don't physically bite your tongue, but bite your tongue for a minute by not talking and just take a moment, take a nice deep breath in and out and calm yourself because that one little second or two of breath can make a huge difference on how you respond to that person. If you know what I mean. You're not just like screaming right at them. Because if you scream at them, they're going to scream right back. And then it escalates pretty quickly.
Okay, what happens if that stressor keeps following you around the house while you're trying to count to 10 and while you're trying to walk away from the situation? But the little stressor keeps following you around.
So is it a little child?
It's my son. He's 8.
Okay. So what you need to do is try to come up with another way to disengage. So put on some music, give them something to do, surprise them and turn around and start following them around the house. Kind of turn it about on them. And at 8, they may figure that out. At 5, they wouldn't. But at 8, they may start to figure out, Hmm. Okay, now I know why, and may stop. But if they're younger than that, that wouldn't work. They're gonna just keep following you around and annoying you. So, mental disengagement. There used to be a commercial, Calgon, take me away, for bath salts, not the kind you inhale, bath salts that were like, just made bubbles. They were kind of like bath bomb things in the early days. But, if winter is getting you down, go online and look at pictures of Hawaii. There are videos, watch some music videos. Again, do something to disengage from the negative thing. Thought suppression doesn't work. Right now, think about this, everyone. For the next 30 seconds, you are not allowed to think of an elephant. Did you hear me? For the next 30 seconds, you are not allowed to think of an elephant. Are we all thinking about elephants? Yes, right? It's kind of like a rebound effect. So, you have a bill you have to pay, and you're laying in bed thinking, oh my gosh, I have to pay that bill. Oh my gosh, I have to pay that bill. Oh, this is stressing me out. I don't want to think about paying my bill. I don't want, oh my gosh. And you just keep going it over and over and over in your mind, and it just makes it worse. One of the best things you can do is use humor. Humor has such positive effects on our immune system, on stress reduction. I mean, whatever floats your boat. If it's, uh, uh, a funny movie, maybe you have a favorite funny movie that you want to go home and watch. But if you're under stress, again, don't don't go home and watch a movie where people all die. That that's not going to solve anything. But go home, watch a funny movie. Go get Netflix, and they have like 4 billion comedians have little half-hour specials on Facebook. If you have Facebook, Dry Bar Comedy, little half-hour comedians. Just humor. Uh, Turn on YouTube, and you can watch puppies. You can watch kittens. You can watch American Funniest Videos and people getting hit or falling off their chair. But we forget about the stress. And the humor causes that positive release of endorphins. So that's a very effective method. Laughter is the best medicine. Well, the research actually shows it's pretty good. So that's just not just a made up line. Other coping strategies. Aggression, bad. Right? If you've ever seen anyone who has anger issues with driving, I mean, people have been shot for, staying at a stop sign too long. I mean, really road rage issues. Aggressive tendencies are not a positive coping strategy, and it can really show a detriment if you already have a hostile attribution bias. Remember, attribution is why you do something. So if you're already a negative person, you already think everyone's out to get you, and now you're going to use aggression, you may even push that aggression onto someone who really doesn't even deserve it. If we use aggression as a coping strategy, we tend to be more aggressive, just in general in life. And we do have a gender difference here. More men use aggression than women in general as a coping strategy. people with lower self-esteem tend to use aggression more because the stress that they want to reduce is difficult to reduce because they think negatively about themselves. Think of a bully. A bully actually has very low self-esteem. The research shows bullies have low self-esteem. They pick on someone that they know that they can, you know, control. They're not going to pick the star quarterback. They're going to pick someone that they know they control, because if they can control them, it makes them feel good about themselves, which reduces their stress that they're not good enough. Narcissistic. Sorry, ladies, this one's ours. The guys got the aggression, narcissism. Yeah, that's us. More women tend to show these narcissistic tendencies where they want to be in control and they want to control everything. And by that sense of controlling and manipulating situations, they feel they can reduce and control their stress. Drugs and alcohol, again, bad, bad method. Drugs and alcohol, substance abuse, whether it's, legal, like, the alcohol, cigarettes, cigars, things like that. It can put you in dangerous situations. If you get drunk and you're in a bar, if you are using other substances, heroin, cocaine, crack. Now there's a lot of stuff on the streets that, this isn't regulated. You don't know what this stuff has been cut with. Fentanyl. People are losing their lives every day. People who are lucky that Narcan is around and have had sometimes a second, third, fourth chance. There's a gentleman who's homeless on the north side that I've befriended and bring him food sometimes. And he tells me about this younger homeless guy that he's trying to get help. He says at least twice a week he overdoses. At least twice a week this kid overdoses. And he says many a times I'm the one that's calling the police, or calling the paramedics to come and help this kid. And he's a young kid. He's in his 20s, but he keeps doing it. And he said, I know I'm gonna one time be too late to get there, and he's gonna be dead. So, putting yourself in situations that you may not live. Drugs can cause legal problems, and of course, it can cause dependence on it. We develop a tolerance. So, one pill, hey, first that made you high. Well, now you need 2 pills to get the same high. Now you need 3 pills or 4 pills or 5 pills. Next thing you know, you're addicted to the substance. When you try to quit, you have a withdrawal effect. And depending on how long you were using the drug and what kind of drug it is, that withdrawal can be pretty dramatic. The shakes, cold, hot, just fever, vomiting, pain. And imagine if the woman is pregnant and going through withdrawal. Again, the developing fetus would go through those same withdrawal symptoms. Social support. Social support does have some help with coping with survival needs. If you're in a situation where you may die, you have diabetes, you have, a heart attack, you have cancer, we could go on. Okay. Um, if you have someone there to support you, to help you, it can help relieve the depression and it can increase your immune system, which you want. Actual help. So, if you found out that you had cancer and you told me, and I said to you, anything you need, if you need me to take you to the store, if you need me to take to the doctor, you just call. And then you call me and I go pick you up and I take you to the doctor. That's social support. That can reduce stress. But this is even more interesting than enacted social support, perceived social support. If you believe that the person will support you, even if they don't, you can have the same positive effects as if they did. So, in other words, if you again said to me, you have cancer, and I say, if you need anything, you just let me know. And if I'm free, I'll be glad to help you. And just hearing that is enough to help reduce the stress. If you call me and I'm not there, I don't pick up the phone or anything, it still doesn't matter because you believe what I said to you. So that's perceived social support. So that's just as good when it comes psychologically to reducing your stress. In reality, you want to have the enacted too. You will need help at time from time, Almost done. So, what are positive coping strategies? And here's a list. So, hypnosis. If you are able to concentrate, I'm going to stop the share for a second if you can see me. If you are able to concentrate, and this is why we say most people who are college students can be hypnotized. Again, if you take your two fingers like this and you look to the middle or those fingers and just keep staring. I am not moving my fingers. But you just pick a point and you concentrate on the point. And your fingers, because of your concentration, will just automatically start to move. You can be hypnotized. You just have to be able to concentrate. That's the only thing you need in order to be hypnotized, is that you can concentrate on, it could be a sound, an object, a voice, a point, a light. A lot of times they'll use a candle. Okay. So hypnosis can reduce stress. Meditation. Meditation has come back in a big way. Relaxation meditation DVDs used to be tapes, but like CDs on iTunes, Amazon Prime, in their music stores, they'll have meditations. You're sitting there in this quiet music and someone talks you through it. If we were actually in a classroom, I actually usually do a meditative walk, and sometimes I'll actually put people to sleep, but I don't want to put you to sleep online because I can't get you back up. You might be there sitting in your chair for a while, so I don't want to do it. But yoga has made a huge comeback. It was real big in the 60s and a little bit in the 70s, and then it kind of disappeared. Oh my gosh, we even have yoga for dogs. We have goat yoga. We have every type of yoga you can think of. Yoga for families. You can all come together and do yoga. Does it work? Yeah, because concentrating on your body and you're trying to reduce your stress. Okay, so you may not get into downward dog, okay? But that effort of trying is releasing endorphins. Endorphins are our natural painkillers. It makes us feel better. Biofeedback, again, charting your like patterns of your body, learning when you may be more under stress. So you notice that, right after work, you're really, really stressful. So then you would find a coping mechanism that's a positive coping strategy to use at that time. Visual imagery. You're walking along a beach and you can hear the sound of the waves against the shore and you can feel the sun on your back. And each time the wave comes in, it takes your stress and takes it out to sea as it goes out. And you do this for about 10, 15 minutes. You could make your own. You could just record it right on your phone, or you can get scripts. They're free online. People have posted scripts of like visual guided imagery. Again, there are products you can buy, or you can just talk yourself through it. If the beach doesn't work for you, maybe you like the wilderness, you're walking along a trail and the sun is shining through the trees as the trees are changing colors. And it just causes you to relax. Cognitive therapy, guess what? That's venting. That's all therapy is. You're talking. It's talk therapy. Stress management, you can take a stress management class, you can take a relaxation induction classes. A lot of these programs like with yoga will also offer classes like this. I said CCAC offers a stress management class. When we were on campus during final exams, they would bring in therapy dogs and therapy puppies learning to be therapy dogs so people could cuddle with puppies and pet dogs. Do you know by petting a dog or a cat, you can reduce your blood pressure by 15 to 20 points by petting a dog or a cat? Prayer, depending on what your religious tradition is, most of the formal religious traditions have some sort of prayer. Many of those prayers are very repetitive. So you say them over and over again and you focus on that, and you can reduce your stress through prayer. And then Tai Chi, which you're controlling, your mind is controlling your body movements. So they're very, very slow. You may see people a lot of times out in an open field doing Tai Chi, where they, again, are using very slow movements. They reduce their breathing and it's complete relaxation. They're not paying attention to anything else except their body and the space that they're in. So what are the effects of these things that I just said? And these are just some of the things you can do. The research shows that these mind-body interventions will improve your mood, will improve your immune system, will increase your lung function. It will help you improve and control any pain you may have. It can decrease your stress and any emotional distress you have, lower subsequent heart problems, and take note of this, the placebo effect as mind-body interventions. If you believe these things that you're doing, even if they weren't on my list, If you believe that twirling a fidget spinner is reducing your stress, you truly believe that, it will reduce your stress. If you believe petting the back of your hand reduces your stress, truly believe it, it will reduce your stress. So the key to reducing stress is one, choosing a method that works for you, and you can make it work if you truly believe that it's going to work for you. And that is it. So I'm going to stop the recording there.